Okay. Well, are you cool with the questions and happy to go?
Yeah.
All right. No worries. Well, let's kick off. Well, welcome everyone to Law Hackers. Today we're speaking with Eva Hibnick and Alan Rodriguez. Eva is the Chief of Growth, and Alan, you're the Chief of Product at One400. Welcome, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having
us.
I just want to kick off, and I'm not sure who wants to answer the first question. One400, give us your pitch. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so One400 is a law innovation agency that focuses on helping law firms and legal tech startups with client acquisition, inbound marketing, and building products. So, yeah, Alan and I started, in 2013. And really, just to kind of kick it off, we were just meeting once a week to just talk about this legal tech movement, kind of throwing around ideas in the space. And then we ended up closing one client. And that's when we just started One400 and kind of came up with this agency model to help others build their own products.
Cool. And is this when you're at General Assembly? And Alan, is this when you're at, I guess, at LegalZoom, or where were you guys at in terms of your background when this all came about?
So actually, I had left LegalZoom in 2012, and I was working on my own startup. It was called LawDeal.com at the moment. It didn't. I'm sorry. LawDeal, yeah. It hadn't gone the way I'd hoped, and at the time, I was kind of really rethinking, like, really kind of far-thinking legal technologies. And then Eva had reached out to me via LinkedIn. We had coffee, and she kind of reinvigorated my spirit for the legal space. So I kind of jumped back into it. Like she had indicated, we worked on weekends out of coffee shops throughout the city, kind of brainstorming ideas, and then really got our first client and kind of kicked things off. And it's been a fun ride ever since.
It was actually from the legal startup side, which actually originally when we had talked about, maybe sort of forming an agency model business, we had said, okay, our target audience are law firms. Just a little background to kind of explain that. I was an attorney for about 1.5 years in New York before joining General Assembly, which is an education startup based in New York. And then they moved me out to the LA office. And so I was there for about 2 years, but really my mission was to kind of use what I learned in marketing and sales at a startup and kind of apply it back to the legal industry. And Alan had worked at the LA County Bar and LegalZoom. So it kind of made sense for us to both focus on law firms. Opportunistically, we actually have about 60% of our clients now are legal tech startups. And in fact, they kind of had come to us because of our knowledge in the legal industry, and because it is difficult to kind of break into this industry if you're not a lawyer or don't have experience dealing with lawyers.
I was going to say, is it founders who are not from the legal industry looking for your expertise? I mean, you've got both ends of the stick: founders that are non-lawyers and founders that are lawyers who are saying, well, the startup piece, so advise us on that.
Yeah, and I think that's how it's really kind of worked out, right? So you have these kind of non-attorney founders who really don't understand the regulatory environment. Maybe they don't understand that, legal services are normally sold on kind of a crisis, more urgent type basis. These kind of finer points that just kind of come with, being involved in the industry for several years. They typically come to us for that type of expertise. They also come to us to help them manage, their networks of attorneys. Many of them are kind of marketplaces or aggregators of legal services products and law firms. So oftentimes, kind of knowing how to work with an attorney, knowing the language that they kind of expect, from a business partner, that sort of thing is something we deliver. And then as you indicated, on the other end, you have an attorney founder who maybe doesn't quite understand the technologies out there that they can use to acquire users or adoption for their product, that sort of thing. And so we kind of lend, both ends of that spectrum, the expertise.
And the one thing we're really known for, in fact, in the law firm world is, lawyers think about their, business as a service business, right? So legal skills, service. We kind of are known for shifting their mentality into thinking about it as a product. And that's, in fact, like LegalZoom, that's what they did. They commoditized legal services. And so we are trying to kind of give that back to the lawyers and say, look, you can provide your services as products as well. Flat fee them. And obviously we work with them to make sure the pricing makes sense for both the lawyers and the clients.
And where are you guys at in terms of clients? So is it an even split? You talked about 60% being on the startup side. How's the traction going? Broadly, what's your pricing model? Is it retainer versus fixed fee, that sort of thing? Like, how are you guys going?
Yeah, so we work on a monthly retainer, in fact. So far it's been going really well. We haven't lost the client, yet, and we don't, foresee that happening. I think, we sort of operate in some sense as like a CMO. It's sort of an outsourced CMO service. But it's more than that, so we kind of look into what they've been doing, what their visions are, what their goals are, and sort of, come up with a plan in terms of the website redesign, optimization, building out new products, social media, content. So we really are a full service agency, which is, not something that I don't know anyone else that's kind of doing it, focusing on the legal industry.
Yeah, David, there's one thing I'd add about like kind of our monthly retainer is that like traditionally the practice of law has been kind of tied to time, right? Like an hourly fee, that sort of thing. And so, consumers have kind of demonstrated time and time again that that's not a model that they're kind of fond of, right? And so what we're trying to do is kind of take some of our own medicine where we've decided as an agency against other people's advice to not do hourly work, right? Because we feel that like this is the general direction that the industry is headed, and as a law innovation agency, we want to show some leadership in this area. So, we've decided like only kind of flat fee monthly retainer on a fairly all-you-can-eat kind of model makes most sense for our clients and for us, to be honest. So.
And I think, with marketing, it is a lot of experimentation. It is a lot of, there are so many channels that you can pursue. And so I think working on an hourly basis or like specific channels, like say, okay, we'll run your Facebook isn't effective. Like we really believe that an integrated marketing solution is the best, where you're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. And so what's the mix these days in terms of the startup side versus the law firm side, and who's seeking you out the most?
So again, 60% are legal tech startups. I think, like I said, opportunistic, and I think it's because we are pretty heavily involved in the legal tech space, which mostly is going to be in San Francisco. There's a lot of action at Stanford. They kind of like piloted the movement a little bit with like Codex, and they have future law conferences and everything. So there's also been a couple startup weekends that have been specific to legal tech that we've been mentors at. So in fact, some of the business has been coming from that. And we also organize a legal hackers meetup in LA and an LA legal community meetup. So we're pretty active in that aspect. We're also, we're doing it all kind of thing, but we're also active in the bar associations and lawyer to lawyer kind of peer-to-peer networks. So we're
and ultimately they fall into kind of two camps, right? They're either legal tech startups or they're law firms. So 40% of our portfolio is the law firm portion, and that's kind of where they're split. In the law firm side, though, we're very interested in kind of working with those firms who are interested in what we call Law 2.0, right? So they're not we're not a traditional agency in that. Yes, do we do PPC? Do we do SEO? All those sorts of things. Yes, we do. But what we really do is kind of help bring you out of this kind of precedent mindset, the way things have always been done, and then the way things consumers want to, see their legal services delivered. So we kind of focus on firms that like to think outside the box, who are interested in pursuing alternative business models, and who are interested in selling product, right? Right from their website, or in just kind of ways that haven't been done before. And when you think about kind of the future of law, and this is why we call it Law 2.0, it's this is another way a law firm can kind of distinguish themselves from the competition. And those are really the people that we're interested in speaking with.
And you're talking about product and helping clients roll out product. Have you ever thought about doing the kind of 37 signals type of thing where you start to roll out your own product in your own right?
All agencies do. If you don't hear about them, it means like they're still building, or what they built, hasn't taken off yet. But yeah, we actually developed, we've developed a couple of products actually because of what our clients, clients' feedback has been. I think the first one we did was a dashboard, which basically allows our clients to kind of see what we're doing and track everything on a marketing, a marketing aspect. But yeah, I wouldn't discount that idea at all.
Yeah, and for the dashboard, the real kind of desire there for us was to kind of give the firms this kind of level of actionable business intelligence that they don't normally use to operate, right? In the practice of law, it's very intuitive. It's very kind of, is the phone ringing? Fine. Our marketing's doing well, right? Like there's no kind of tracking of ROI and certain other metrics that are used in other business. So it's one of the ways that we try to add value, and then also demonstrate the value we bring to our clients.
Yeah, great. Well, in terms of the industry more broadly, you guys must, you're certainly part of the industry and its evolution, especially in, I guess, the legal startup space over the last 12 months to 18 months. You've seen that evolve. Would you say it's still booming, or is it past its prime, or has it peaked, or have we yet to see the best days to come?
I think that I'm of the camp that I think the best days are yet to come, right? And I think like most things in the legal industry, disruption has moved slowly, right? And actually, I would break it down into three kind of phases. There was an initial phase of disruption that we think that the internet has generally brought about across all industries. And then we're in the current phase of disruption. And what I think is happening now is really like you're seeing traditional ways of delivering legal services being disrupted. I think there are several, like if you look at the list of legal startups today, I would say 70% of them are marketplace attempts, right, at aggregating legal services. I would say there are, maybe 25% that are kind of focused on B2B solutions for lawyers, either practice management or a variety of other tools. And then I think there's kind of a 5% of other, which are working on some very really innovative things, artificial intelligence, legal informatics, different ways of analyzing big data. And I think the third phase, which is kind of yet to come, are going to incorporate all of those technologies from that 5%, right? An example is I can imagine a future based on recent discoveries with using artificial intelligence like Watson, right, supercomputer. I can imagine a future where somebody can log into a website, speak with the robot via chat, get a legal interview completed, and then have a strategy for fulfillment on a legal problem provided to a partner at a law firm, right, who will then review the strategy and then kind of execute against that. Right, so I think there's going to be certain technologies that are going to be kind of far out there. Another example, like on everyday challenges for some of the lawyers in the future, are going to be like, let's use an auto accident lawyer, for instance. With regards to the driverless car, is Google going to be the defendant, right, for generating the software? Is the chip manufacturer going to be the defendant, or is it the driver that was like reading the paper and sipping coffee on his way to work, going to be the defendant? So I think, in terms of the practice and fulfillment, the future holds some pretty exciting challenges for lawyers going forward.
The law still has a very long way to go to keep up with the rate of pace. And it was interesting you talked about the 5% of the market being the kind of analytics and some of that smart learning software. I mean, Eva, you wrote a piece recently where you did a bit of a breakdown on the money that's being invested, and it looks like some of the really big series, around the sort of 8 to 10 million or even more, are going to those players like Judah Carter and Ravel Law, who are playing the analytics space more so than the marketplaces.
I think overall too, I mean, big data and this analytics kind of wave is really hot right now across all industries. But legal research, there are two. There's like a duopoly, I guess, with Westlaw and Lexis, and I think a large number of people kind of want to disrupt that. It's going to be very, very challenging to disrupt, but I think a lot of the startups that you'll start seeing come out, I think, are going to try and pursue the B2B, kind of helping lawyers with efficiency, with productivity. The challenge with that is that just the sales cycle, because these would be considered enterprise sales, the sales cycle, it might take a year for a large firm, to adopt that software. So I think that's why a large number of the legal tech startups were kind of going after the consumers. A large amount of money is in the, kind of tapping into big law. Some of the top firms are making, have revenues of like 3 billion. So, and a lot of their technology is not up to par with what exists. So I think you'll see a lot more kind of trying to help lawyers with their day-to-day.
Yeah, and do you think investors are listening? Are they sort of, are they taking notice of legal startups and the movement? What do you think the investment appetite's been like?
Yeah, I think they're taking notice for sure. And I think what's driving it is really kind of the money involved, right? So I think most estimates put the kind of industry at around $300 billion a year, talking about like in America, right? I would say a third of that is probably targeted to the more accessible legal portion of the market, small businesses, consumers, that sort of thing. So I think they've seen those kind of huge numbers and they say, this looks interesting, right? I think there are also a lot of pain points in acquiring new clients, in acquiring legal services on the consumer business side. And I think entrepreneurs get excited about identifying on, pain points and being able to solve problems for them. I think part of why investors haven't completely embraced it, really two reasons. One, the regulation, right? It's just kind of Byzantine and very difficult to kind of understand and navigate. And, I think investors are just kind of scared of overly regulated markets, which the legal field is. The second thing that we've discovered in kind of working with many of our clients is that sophisticated investors, people with a lot of money, have usually had some kind of interaction with a lawyer, either personally or professionally, and it hasn't always gone great, right? And so this kind of bias or this kind of experience might play a role in some of the companies that they choose to invest in, right? I mean, you've sat through enough of these meetings, no doubt, where you hear as an investor you have to invest in something that you're kind of passionate about, both in terms of the numbers, whether they make sense, but also in terms of the team and the viability of the product. And when you have legal services, which the product is mainly services, there's a lot of concern around how that product can break down and how you maintain consistency, that sort of thing. But I do feel that technologies are changing that, and I am positive that the future looks bright for startups and investors alike in the legal field.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about what's, I guess, happened so far, you guys must see, the full spectrum of websites and startups and blogs and all that. If you can just I'll just fire out a few, who do you think's doing something really interesting in what field? If you don't mind, just, name me a couple of names, that'll be great. But I mean, just to start off with, best website, who do you think has got it right now?
All right, so you're going to hate me for this answer, but I would say best website are the ones that One400 produces as a team.
Yes.
All right. But I will give you a blog. I think Above the Law and Solo Practice University runs some of the best blogs and some of the best content that I've come across. Eva might have some some
Yeah,
of your
I
own
think,
comments on
you
that.
know, solo practice university is really, really good for people that are thinking about, you know, leaving big law or even just starting their own practice. And there are a lot of webinars on there and articles just about like how to run a business, the law firm. And I think that's really important because I think, you know, as we all know, law schools, you know, don't teach us enough, I guess, about how to start your own business. For legal tech startups, I think, you know, the jury is still out. I think, you know, within the next couple of years, there will be at least a couple of big players that are going to come on the scene.
Yeah, there's been such a rush to kind of fill these different pain points that it's kind of hard to sift through the really meaningful ones. But I think the jury's still out. I think we need another year or two to kind of really identify one that's kind of the shining star and that's doing something truly disruptive.
Yeah. What about from just purely UX design? Just put your designer hat on for a moment there. Like, there's some pretty cool things. Logical is something that springs to my mind as being a website that kind of sort of blows me away. It doesn't look like a legal startup in any way, shape, or form. It's totally responsive. It's got some amazing video. It's got some, it looks really cool. And even Clio, the way they do their blog, like it looks like Medium. It's just got that really modern look and feel, and the way they present it. Like, business models aside, like they're just two that kind of spring to mind. And I really quite like some of the little, almost quite hacky kind of startups. So one of them was Best Law, that I saw recently, which is just a plugin which gives you the functionality that Westlaw forgot. Like, just little hacks like that are pretty cool that really piqued my interest. So anyway, my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad organizations like you mentioned are really kind of using design to kind of help improve the customer experience, because we do feel that that's been lacking for sure. And good design should not only kind of please aesthetically, but should help the consumer kind of get to their desired outcome more quickly. And so, yeah, I mean, I think the industry is kind of adopting, that kind of mindset slowly, but you certainly nailed a couple of great ones, yeah.
Yeah, I think Clio, you're right, has done a really good job. I think, the legal tech startups that are going after kind of the visual depiction of case law has been really interesting. I think there will probably be more to come on that front, because I think it's really interesting for lawyers to kind of see, the links and the degrees of separation between cases.
Yeah, well, definitely lots going on and more to come for sure. And look, really appreciate you guys, talking to us today and talking to us about your story and your journey. It's great to see, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was
us.
really fun.
Cool. All right. See you guys.
You got it.
Bye.
Bye.